Tonight, as the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in this country climbs to over 1 million and deaths surpass American losses in the Vietnam War, there are increasing worries about a breakdown of the food chain. The president using his executive authority tonight to order meat and egg processors to keep their plants running, despite many becoming epicenters for the virus. It's yet another looming crisis, even as so much of the nation is trying to emerge from lockdown and return to normal.
So yeah, man, thanks a lot for coming on. I know we had some trouble kind of, finding a good time for both of us. So I know you've been busy. So seriously, man, thanks for doing this.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you asking me. Sorry, sometimes it's difficult for me to breathe, step back and breathe a little bit. So I'm glad we were able to nail a time down. Sorry it took so long though, but here we are. We're good.
No worries at all. Yeah.
Right on.
So maybe because I don't even think I've really given you any kind of rationale up to this point about kind of what I'm up to with these things. But the reason that I wanted to have you on is because, basically I am a photographer. I have nothing to do, as probably a lot of us don't. And I kind of started with talking to photographers that I admired and people, that like inspired me and that sort of thing. And as I've been doing that, I've really kind of had interest in other areas too. Like I've wanted to talk to people about mental health, and I've wanted to talk to people about things that can provide information on the quarantine and what have you. So you're like a bit of a Philly, sort of a Philly iconic, kind of guy, I would say. And you do a lot of admirable shit. Let's just be honest. I mean, I've seen like a lot of articles and just a lot of the stuff that you post and the foundation that you run and everything, and it's really cool, man. And I think while this whole coronavirus and quarantine situation, everybody obviously cares about what's going on with everybody, but I think there's a lot of kind of selfishness inadvertently that we have because, if you find out that somebody that has the virus, the first thing that you think is, when was the last time that I saw this person? Like we immediately kind of, go to ourselves. And so I think that we're often looking through it from a lens in that scope. And, I wonder with somebody that works so frequently with people that are addicted to whatever, and also like the homeless population in Philadelphia, like I can only imagine what it looks through a lens like that. And I just thought that you would be like a really interesting guy to have on, and we can just, talk about that sort of thing and kind of some of the things that
right on. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I mean, the more awareness that people can get about things, the better that it is, for everybody, so you're looking to just sort of bridge some gaps, and I love that. So yeah.
Yeah. So what is going on the ground? I mean, I know obviously to piggyback off the other thing, like you've been very busy. So
yeah,
what's going on in the life of Britt Carpenter right now?
The life of Britt Carpenter right now. It's been a little bit crazy. Since March, usually I have a pretty balanced schedule. I'm able to, maintain both my small business that I run and operate, and the nonprofit, and a somewhat normalcy of a, healthy sort of social life or lack thereof sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
But, like right now it's like, things have just like totally like went to a screeching halt and forget everything I've learned, up until now. And it's like, I'm learning new things. I'm putting new systems and practices into place. And, I'm okay with crises when they come about, and, I'm used to handling that type of thing like crisis management, but this was something that was never planned for. This was something that nobody planned for really. So, for me right now, it's been, trying to keep my business afloat the best I can with what, resources I still have. And then of course doing the outreach as much as I can and getting out in the streets and working with those that are, suffering from homelessness, or those who have a substance use disorder, or just the community in general who don't have the resources or don't know how to get the resources to help themselves. Because a lot of people who, may not be homeless or, may not be on the streets, they have homes, but they don't know, they've never been told, or they don't understand. So, it's been very challenging as it usually is, but it's also been, it's been very little draining a little bit.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's draining. Frankly, it's draining just to watch the news at this point. Like, it's draining it's whether it's like you think that it's bullshit or you think that it's reality, or besides that argument, it's like just sitting in front of the TV and getting factual information is overwhelming just by itself. And I have days where it's like, I just can't even do it. It's like I'm turning my brain off from the news for the next like 24 hours. And then, but it's funny. It's like as soon as you go back, you're like itching, your hands like, what did I miss? Like what valuable thing do I not know?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I usually have the news on. I'm a news junkie. I'm a huge, because of what I do on the streets, because of, my business, just because of being an active community member, I'm a news junkie.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I don't have the TV on anymore like I used to. I would have Channel 6 playing most of the day from like 12 o'clock on for all the news. And I refuse to anymore. It's the same old thing. I mean, my phone pops up constantly with notifications and I'm like, oh.
What is it now?
Exactly. So, but that's the new norm. That's what we're living in. That's where we are as a society. That's where we are as, as a world. It's not just us. It's not like we're being penalized or, I think it's funny because, all these people are having this problem with staying at home and, they're having this, they didn't, but like Italy did it for how long? And it worked.
Was like 2 months or something like that. They just didn't leave their houses.
Not at all. They weren't allowed to. They were quarantined, the whole country, basically, So it's interesting to see how, we're operating. When I talk to people and, I talk to them even on like my show, and I'll say to them, like this is considered the new norm. People go to the store and they come home, they're washing their groceries and they're wearing masks. And, what happens when this is all done? Are people going to still wash their groceries? Are they going to still wear masks? Are they going to still, use hand sanitizer? Are they going to go back to not using toilet paper again? Because apparently they didn't use it prior to this.
Yeah, right. Evidently, as soon as the quarantine order was struck down, everyone's buttholes just went crazy.
My gosh, I was just like, what? Like here we are, like, going into a pandemic, and like the thing that people are buying the most is toilet paper. Like, what did you wipe your rear ends with before? I really want to know.
Right.
So, but I guess, that sort of goes back to like, when we have blizzards, we're calling for snowstorms, the supermarkets are like packed, and or when I lived in Florida, when there's a hurricane, the supermarkets are packed, it's the end of the world. And I'm thinking to myself, no food in the house up until now. So, it's been interesting to see. But it's draining. Every day it's something different. How about you? How you holding up?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny, like for obvious reasons, the same as everybody else, like it sucks, right? I mean, it sucks. But I have to be super thankful. I have a lot of good stuff in my life right now. And I try to take acknowledgement of that. I mean, it's funny because like all the internet memes and stuff is just like, the people that have kids like going crazy stuff. I've had like the opposite experience. Like I find that it's fantastic having this little girl running around. Like it's, I mean, granted, like there are times when like daddy needs to do something or whatever, so that exists. But like, I don't know, man, I feel like I would be a lot more bored if I didn't have this like joyful thing around me that was just constantly like spewing positivity. Although, don't get me wrong, there are times, but like just this insanely positive thing. So I'm super thankful for her and my wife. And I don't know, it just seems to be going really well. I mean, hey, it could always make a left turn and we could want to kill each other, but
you find that silver lining. You take the good, you take the bad, you take the indifferent, you just make it work.
Yeah.
You make it work. We've all had roadblocks in our life or barriers that were placed in front of us, and a majority of us worked around them as relatively sane and as best as possible. And I think that I gotta tell you, I think that this is actually an opportunity to tell everybody to slow the hell down.
Totally.
Reset yourselves a little bit. Go back to basics, And I think people forget about the basics. And I'm a huge firm believer that, like, in order to progress in life, or to even progress, as in yourself or with other people, you've got to understand the basics. You've got to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And it's interesting because even with my small business, I own a pet sitting and dog walking company. And I applied for the waiver to be essential because we have, clients that are healthcare workers, firemen, stuff like that. And it's been so long since I've been out in the field on a daily basis, that long, like I am now, because I'm always doing the operations side. I'm behind a computer. I'm answering the phone. I'm running operations. I'm doing, the invoice, this and that. And I don't do this. And I've been able to get back to basics and realize why I started the business I started. And remember how hard it was to get started. And now I'm also seeing, like, wow, I so appreciate my employees because of the work that they do and how they bust their ass for me and for our clients. And, so I think it's also been a little bit of a blessing for me, or hopefully for everybody, in a way, to maybe be with themselves and to think about things and take some time.
Yeah, man. It's funny you mentioned that. And I feel like those that listen to these, like, regularly are probably getting sick of me saying it, but I feel like I just have to, because there's certain themes, there are themes that I've picked up in doing these, because a lot of these they come back to this, to these certain points, constantly. And a lot of it has to do with, figuring out what you're into, maybe creatively, or like, what are some things that you, like you said, I can finally catch up on this, or it's almost as though, it's unfortunate that there was sort of a gun to our heads that said, listen, like, you guys are going to have to be with your thoughts for a little while. It's too bad that it had to come to that, but it's interesting that a lot of people seem to be kind of riding this wave of, like, I don't know, opportunity, or what could I have been doing all these years? And, like, just those conversations seem to be taking place a lot. And so when I talk to a lot of the, people that I've been talking to, it doesn't seem to matter, like, whether they're photographers or musicians or business owners, or, I had Yuri Beletsky on a few days ago, who's like an astronomer. I mean, like, literally an just crazy shit that were, like, people I shouldn't even be interviewing, frankly.
Why not?
And
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was super cool. But, everyone really is in that same boat. And I don't just mean that from, like, the hokey cliche nature of we're all in the same boat. It's like, really, when you talk to people, you realize just how similar everyone is, regardless of politics or any other thing. I think people are actually much, much more closely related than I think people think that they are.
Yeah, and I think that's, it's important. I think I've often been a firm believer of, I don't care what, how many zeros are behind your paycheck, I don't care what type of car you're driving, or what type of house you're living in, or if you got the white picket fence or you don't, or if you have your vacation home or you don't. At the end of the day, we're all the same. Nothing is different about us other than we're people, we're humans. And I think we tend to forget that. And we let that status, that people ride out so much, or that prestige that they're looking for. And that helps people's self-worth, and it helps their self-esteem to be a little bit stronger and better. But I also think that they tend to forget about the fact that, regardless of what I do all day long for a living and everything, at the end of the day, you and I can sit down. We're the same, man.
Yeah.
We have the same to offer people. We're people, and people forget that. And I think I've seen a lot more people learning the value of humanity throughout this pandemic so far. It's been crazy to see, like, people step up.
Yeah. For as many, like, things that we can easily bitch about just on TV, or like, there's a whole bunch of things that suck right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, man. Like, there are so many good stories, and there are so many, like, it's just, we appreciate everything more. I think that's the thing that I've come to find, is that, when you take something away, you miss it. And, maybe this is going to serve to be one of these big slaps in the face where, like, I was talking to my buddy's mom. She was on her bike, and she kind of went by, and I kind of waved at her from the front step. And she We were just talking about, it's so weird how much, and like, I like to just talk to people right now. You just see somebody outside. It's like, it's this funny, like almost Seinfeldian thing where like, at least me personally, like I can't help but go outside. If I see somebody and like I have a mask on and they have a mask on, it's just like, what? It's like, it's that automatic, like everything's a punchline and everything's like, how fucking crazy is this? And it's like, oh my God. And like, it's like,
it's all of a sudden like, hey, how about this weather we're having? You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, people used to put their heads down and walk by you because they didn't want to make small talk, because they didn't want to, have that encounter, whatever the case may be. But now I'm finding people want that small talk. I'm stopping. There's people talking to that. I'm thinking to myself, would I ever have spoken to that dude ever in my life? For any reason, like what the hell, what's going on here? It's a little bit crazy, and I find myself actually stopping people as I'm walking and I'm like, so how are you holding up? And they actually answer me, like legitimately, honestly answer me.
Right.
It's not like, oh, we're doing good, everything's good. They're like,
fine.
Fine, which what fine means when it's broken down, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe not. What I think I do, but what does it mean?
To me, it's a little bit different. It's, it's fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and empty. Because that fine is just sort of a baseline response.
Oh yeah. It's autopilot.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like anybody who's fine, you're not fine. It's like your wife saying, yeah, I'm fine. You're like, okay, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fine is the ultimate, like, let me just retrace my steps. What the fuck did I do? Yeah. That's fine. That's what fine means.
Isn't that interesting? Because like your friends could say to you, hey, fine. You'd be like, all right, cool. Or your friends could say to you, no worries. You're like, cool. But your wife says, yeah, fine or no worries. You're like, oh, I'm in deep shit.
Right. Yeah. That might even be worse than if she said, I'm mad at you.
Yeah,
it's ironic. I'm mad at you is just like, oh, all right, well, I can deal with this. Fine is like,
what's happening next? But I get it. But yeah, I find myself, having these conversations with people, and I find these people speaking back to me, and it's interesting because, I'm a talker, as you know, and I share and I'm free about it. But like, I've noticed a lot more people opening up.
Yeah.
A lot more people being willing to talk. Like you said, it's very almost like a Seinfeld, you try to avoid people most of your life, but now you're like, hey, I'm so glad I saw you. You're wearing a mask right on,
Yeah.
So,
speaking of which, have you gotten into the fashion aspect of masks at this point, or are you still rocking like an N95, or what are you sporting these days?
Absolutely. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right there.
Yeah. Let's check it out.
When this all started, a friend of mine and his girlfriend, she does a lot with textiles and stuff like that. So they were making these masks, and they just thought, we'll make a few here and there and give them out to people. Like they know I go out in the streets and I needed them. So like they got me some masks right off the front, and then all of a sudden they were shipping them to New York, to Jersey.
No kidding.
In other words, they were making them by the masses. But yeah, I have this one here.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorites. I like it. I can wash it. It's got like the African sort of print. I don't know. That's what somebody else said. But
yeah.
Then I have, of course, cool. Like, because I'm just sort of a plain dude, I sort of like this one too. And I got the plain one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about as fashionista as I get with the face masks,
Right.
But they help. They work. I'm able to wash them. Sometimes, it's a reminder that I got to either brush my teeth or use Listerine. But
yeah, nothing could be better than... a better reminder than something that keeps your breath right in front of your face.
Exactly. But so I've been getting a little more fashionista with them. I haven't really had a surgical mask that I've worn. And these are great because I have 3 of them and I can interchange them, wash them. And, I feel safer that way. I haven't gotten into the gloves though.
You didn't do like the latex or anything?
When I go out and I'm doing outreach and I'm in the van and stuff like that, I will actually wear the gloves. I will. Or I might actually, it's weird. And sometimes I wear one because I'm conscious of where that hand is more so then. And it's just, then I'm not like, oh, I can't scratch. I can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
but you look more like Michael Jackson though, which is always a bonus.
And I'm okay with that, whatever, but yeah, I wear the one sometimes not at all. But like when I'm out, like just in general, no. When I go to the grocery store, no gloves. I just, there was that once again, there was a whole premise that you touch that, you touch that, and touch that. You're
I
doing
know.
it already. So,
I know. It's exhausting. I wonder, like, when I have a mask on or when I have gloves on, and I wear gloves occasionally, although I made some trips today and I didn't. But I wonder, like, am I even following the protocol correctly half the time? Because, like, I'm sure I'm screwing up. I'm sure I probably don't even wash my hands to the extent that, like, a surgeon or someone would tell you to, like, I'm sure I'm shortcutting, like, these things constantly,
Me too. But the thing is, like, I'm at the point where my hands are like leather.
Oh, yeah.
So now I find myself with tons of moisture, like moisturizer and I never used that stuff before.
Yeah.
So once again, life as we know it has changed.
I know.
I think I got more lax as time went on. In the beginning, I might have been more conscientious about washing my hands and washing my clothes and this and that. I'm getting a little more lax now as time goes on. I don't know if that's in general with people or just me, but I don't know.
It's the case with me for sure. I've been thinking about that. In fact, so my wife and myself and our daughter, we actually went up to Maine for about a week.
Nice. Where in Maine?
Kind of in the Booth Bay area. Do you know that area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So her family's been going there for like years. But usually like in the summertime, where her mother bought like this, little place on the ocean and like somewhere near Booth Bay. Southport is actually the name of the area. And but it's a complete, renovation project, and there's just like stuff everywhere. And but we really just felt like I have to get out of the house, but I don't want to be irresponsible about it. And so, she kind of asked her mother, like, hey, I know the house is probably a wreck, but like, is there a bed? Like, is there, can we just go up there? And so we ended up going up there, and we went during the new moon so I could shoot Milky Way, and that was awesome.
Sweet.
Great spot for it and everything. But the point is, what I noticed is that because in Maine, like, you actually do feel like you're quarantining properly. Like, here it's like, you're still seeing people all the time, and you're kind of like, are we really quarantined? Like, I still see people outside or whatever, but like in Maine, like, you really are, there's nobody around. It's the off season. No one's up there yet. And so when we came back, I had gotten so used to just like, I don't really care anymore. We've just got this little, we just go for a little walk and you don't see anybody. And since I've been back, I've especially felt, like, oh man, did I wash my hands? Like I have to remember, like I have to make a more conscious effort. And so I think that it's Maine, but I also think that it's just the time that it's been taking to do all this, where like eventually the longer that you're not sick, or the longer that you don't know someone who is sick, it's just easier to kind of get back into lazier protocol.
Well, and I think that's okay too, because let's face it, if we're not going to be exposing ourselves to others and others to us, then it's okay. If I'm touching stuff in my home, I'm pretty confident there was nobody in here, so I'm not going to be washing my hands consistently. If I'm walking my dogs around the block and all I'm doing is using their bag to pick up the poop when I get home, I'll wash my hands normally, of course, but I'm not going to be like thinking about it because I'm not touching things along the way on my walk. I don't normally like touch door handles and railings and, like objects. I normally just walk. So I've gotten a little bit more lax.
Yeah.
Depends on where I'm at. If I'm doing outreach, though, the minute I come home, the clothing gets stripped off outside, it gets put into a bag, and I go right into the shower.
Yeah.
Everything gets washed on hot because.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask away.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, do you find yourself being like maybe more paranoid, in that like you're just around people that maybe you quote, don't have to be?
Well, it's funny because, I don't have to be around anybody. So that's a really great thing. But like for me, like if I don't go around, then who will? There's only a handful of people out there that would ever do it. There's organizations, yes, that are doing it. There's other nonprofits that may be doing it, but this is a very, difficult time because, on the streets, people aren't understanding what social distancing is. They don't have homes to go to stay at home.
Right.
They can't self-isolate if there's nowhere to isolate. They're exposed. They can't social distance because there's so many people in one area and they don't get it. They're not getting it. I've had to remind people on the streets doing outreach, like, yo, hey guys, you got to give us space. There's got to be 6 feet. If my hand comes close to you, then you're too close. You've got to respect that. And like the other day, I was walking on Broad Street, and this guy approached me and he asked me for money. And of course, we don't give money. It's just something I've never done ever, and I won't. I lied. He didn't ask for money. I assumed, which is so bad on my part, because he's like, "Excuse me, do you?" And I was like, "I don't have any money on me." He's like, "I don't need money." I was like, "He's like, all I need is laundry detergent because I want to wash my clothing." And there are places like the Hub of Hope is open, stuff like that, but he needed laundry detergent. So I was in the store getting laundry detergent. I was also going to get him some water and peanuts and a few snack things, because I will do that because that's tangible stuff they can walk away with. And He came in right up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, whoa. And it sort of startled me because, I'm not used to somebody touching me to begin with, let alone during this whole pandemic. And I had to remind him. And I think I may have come across as a little like, for the first time through all this happened, is like a little like intense.
Right.
I mean, I could be intense a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I think that time I was a little intense because there was just so much, because it was a nice day. Nice days like today bring people out like crazy. You see the people that are out there today watching the Blue Angels, and there's no social distancing. So I think about that. I'm more cautious. I'm not prejudiced towards it. I'm just more cautious, than normal. I mean, I'm cautious every day. I'm out there because you have to be, but now I'm much more conscientious, man. It's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. It must be tough because, obviously you have to consider your own health and everything, but, I would imagine in a position like that where you're dealing with like a large, population of homeless people, you probably try really hard to not be offensive, right? Like I would imagine if I assume if I were doing what you were doing, I would constantly be checking myself to be like, I don't want to look like this person that I feel like I might look like. Do you know what I mean? And but then you have that to consider, and I can see how it could look bad.
That's a really good point that you brought up, because for me, if this would have been maybe 10 years ago, I would have been thinking about that. I would have been questioning in my mind what I'm going to say. Is that offensive? Is there a stigma behind that? But I think from being on the front lines and being a crisis worker and being an outreach worker, and, it just becomes natural. It becomes second nature. And just like the verbiage you use becomes second nature. 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said homeless addict. And today it's like, that's like a nails in the backboard. You just don't say that, that's, somebody who's suffering from homelessness that has, a substance use disorder. And you learn this, and these are things that you learn. And, I think for me, because it's my mission, it's more so a mission to me than it is something I just do because it makes me feel good. It's not one of those. It's something that's really meant to be my mission. I feel that I'm constantly evolving and learning. So I try my best to make sure that I'm, being respectful of everybody at all times, but also I don't coddle people.
Right.
Like I said, at the end of the day, we're all the same. So talk to me as an individual, talk to me as, a one-on-one, but I'm also not going to coddle that person and be like, oh, what do you need? Are you okay? Hey, if I'm at, I'll give it to my friend. He'll grab that compassion bag for me. No, come on, you get up, walk over here and get it from me. That's sort of, and
right.
We have this philosophy that we got to meet people where they're at, but we also got to make people understand why things have to be done a certain way. So does that make sense? Does that answer what you're asking me?
I think so. I don't remember what the original question it was, but I'm happy with the response.
I do. That's a great cover. I'm happy with the response. I don't know what the question was, but that was a great response. You had asked if there's any type of like being offensive or
Oh yeah, right. No, I think you answered it.
Yeah, I did. But it's funny you say this because the other day I got a text message and it was from somebody who I think they weren't trying to be offensive, but they were in reference to the situation, in reference to outreach and stuff like that. And I got really pissed off about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought of all different names I could think of, And then I sat back, I thought to myself, well, whoa, shame on me. That person probably doesn't know they're being the way they're being. So get off your fucking high horse.
Mm-hmm.
And explain it to them and meet them where they're at. And then if they don't get it, well, then screw them. But if they do, then you know what? Then you're forming you've taught somebody something that they can take with them, and it won't be a stigma. They won't be offensive to somebody else. So that's me. I'm constantly trying to educate people, bringing that awareness, because like I said, once again, people use words like junkie, and that's just totally offensive, and people are like, why? What is offensive? It's a word. Well, think of what you want to be called that, though, the connotation of it. So we start to, peel those layers back, and you got to look at people and, so you just sort of got to make awareness with people. And if they don't get it, then they don't get it.
Yeah. Is that one of those words that's like, it's okay for the individual experiencing that to say it? Is it like one of those things? Or do you...
No,
I would imagine, do you have people that you see that call themselves junkies?
Never.
So that's just off the table now.
It's just totally, they never would have. It's like, like when you're growing up and you're in school and you're taking all those, tests and those achievement tests and you're checking boxes on things. Nobody ever checks a box saying they want to grow up to be a junkie. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Nobody even checks a box that says they want to grow up to be an addiction. And just, I think, even me saying that word that I just said it now, actually, I had to cringe a little bit when I said it. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I said it. And that's the power of the word. That's the stigma of that word.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, it's not okay to call yourself that and not have somebody else say it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which I just think sometimes is so hypocritical.
Right.
But that's the way it goes. It's derogatory. It's just, but like I said, if people don't know and you don't educate them, you can't fault them for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So you said that, I got the impression from something you said a little earlier that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but something like you don't really feel like you're like a philanthropist. You feel as though this is just what you feel you're supposed to be doing. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah, I would never philanthropist. I think of a philanthropist as somebody who has got money,
like a Christian missionary who goes to Central Africa.
I don't know. I would think of somebody who lives in Rittenhouse as a philanthropist. I don't know. I would more or less, I'm an advocate. I'm a crisis worker. Like I said, it's my mission. It's, I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual. I don't, I'm not Catholic. I don't have that. But I'm very spiritual. And, I often will even call it my ministry on the street because it's my way of going out and connecting with people who need me and for me to be able to find their needs and to maybe get them to the next level or to help somebody else because of what I've done with them. But yeah, I just never have looked at this as being I would say more humanitarian than philanthropist.
Right. So you're not thinking to yourself, what can I do for someone else today? You're just actually operating right from the raw, I'm doing this. There's no conversation that you have with yourself.
I don't wake up in the morning saying, what good deed can I get done today?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because not every day do I do one. I mean, I could think I do one somehow every day, just a little bit. But it's more or less, I know what needs to be done. I know who needs the attention. I know where it can go. So I just do it, and it's this 13,000 square foot lot we just signed a lease on that we're opening up a community garden for. And people are
I
like,
saw
well,
that. Yeah.
it's just incredible. It's just an incredible experience to be able to do this. And people are like, what's your ultimate outcome of this? What do you want to do with this? And I'm like, I want to be able to have connections, cohesion in the community, bridge the gaps, a place for, a safe space, sanctuary, place for people to like heal a little bit from trauma. So, I don't know. I don't wake up saying, yeah, I got to do this. Like for example, there's a guy who lives in the street behind me. I've known him for the 6 years that he's lived here, and I see him wearing the same stuff every day in, day out. And ironically enough, like I stopped him and I was like, do you have sneakers? He's like, oh, I have a pair. He had one pair of sneakers, one pair. He has one sweatshirt. Well, like Runner's World magazine donated over 400 sneakers to my nonprofit because we do what's called Philly on its feet. It's it's one of our initiatives. So I gave him a pair of sneakers and he was like, wow. He's like, thank you so much. Like, I'm not even thinking like this guy needed sneakers,
Yeah.
And I gave them to him. And I had him in my car waiting until I saw him walk by my house and handed them to him. And he was thrilled. So, it's little stuff. I just try to do the little stuff. And if I see people need it, if you need a new pair of sneakers, I'd give you a new pair of sneakers,
Yeah.
I don't care if you have a roof over your head or not.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I mean, you're a unique person that can devote that much time to something like that. I don't, and the reason I'm asking, by the way, is because I think that most people, even people that do, like outreach or people that participate in any kind of charitable thing, I think that most people don't necessarily look at it as a duty. I think they look at it as, I would like to do something good for other people. What shall I do? And then they choose a thing and then they do it until maybe eventually that guilt like bubbles up again in weeks or months time or something like that. I think that's how most people operate.
No, and it's funny that you say it like that, because when I first started going out in the streets, like everybody would say to me, oh, you want to go out on Sunday? And I'd say, no, I don't want to go out on Sunday. They're like, why not? I have off and it's a good day to go out. Well, I get it. But like, guess what? You're that mentality and that mind frame is what everybody else has too. It's what, the people from the suburbs, when the husbands are watching football and the wives want to go out and do stuff, they're there on Sunday. So like, I don't do it on just a particular day. I do it, like tomorrow night, I know that I haven't been out in the streets since Saturday. So I'm going out tomorrow. And that's, in my head, that's what I need to do. And, so I just do it. It's, or if like they're calling for a code blue and it's going to be below freezing, all of a sudden like, all right, then I'll get in the van and I'll go out and I'll do some outreach, because I'm sitting in here and no, they're not. So what's 2 hours going to kill?
Right.
So I just do it. I just get up. I don't do it without thought sometimes, what we do doesn't, sometimes it's just, it's second nature.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it for, the whole nonprofit?
And the nonprofit actually was officially a nonprofit for 3 years now, actually 2 days ago, I think.
Oh, cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. But I've been doing the outreach forever, off and on, in between, life changes and things like that. But once I decided that I was going to get off of opiates, because I was addicted to opiates for quite some time, and heroin, I knew that I had a greater purpose. And I think that's where my mission comes in. And I knew that purpose was helping those who needed the help. Mm-hmm. And that I started doing it really full force, probably the end of 2015. But since I was 15 years old, I've been working with people that were, that were affected by homelessness, people that were in a lower economically advantaged area. So stuff like that.
Yeah. So I suppose I probably safe to assume that a lot of the desire to do this is based on, your own experience then, correct? I mean, that had to have been part of what drove you to this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think any of us out there on the streets who do what we do, any activist or any advocate, we're probably inspired to do it by a personal trauma, that has happened to us in our lives. And I think people tend to forget that trauma happens to people daily. And, and usually, that's the reason people fall into bad times is because of trauma. And, for me, this is my way of healing, and to be able to connect with somebody out there who isn't in the position that I'm in at this point in time, but hopefully one day they will be, that's helping me heal because I'm out there helping them. Because I wish, I had that. I always say I wish I had people like that when I was going through it. But the sad part is I did have people like that. I just didn't want to listen.
Right.
So, I do that for others. And yeah, that's sort of why I do it. It's people are always like, oh my gosh, you're so selfless. I'm like, sometimes it's selfish because like I said, it is my way of healing. If I'm having a bad day and I just, something happened with maybe one of my employees or my neighbor or whatever, who knows, I'll go in and do some outreach and I'll forget about that minuscule trouble of my world.
Yeah.
So, that's a loaded question why I do it. And, is it different than the next person? Absolutely. If you talk to any of my colleagues on the streets that do what we do, you'll see a different pattern, with each of us. That's very definitive that we're all doing it because of personal experience.
I find the same thing is true with people that work in mental health much of the time as well. Yeah. Like, people who are like therapists. I tend to know a lot of therapists not because I've seen tons of therapists, but because, first, my wife is a therapist. Second, a bunch of her friends are therapists. And third, for some reason, I have a bunch of friends that are therapists. But it does seem that, not to say that everyone's had like really bad trauma or something like that, but there's always this extreme interest in why am I thinking this, or why am I thinking this, or why did I think this? And I wish that I had blah, 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 blah. And they're often just very good and also just very interested in other people that are having it. It's almost like you can kind of be like, oh my God, yes, I thought that as well. Blah, 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 blah. Here's kind of how I think about it today. And, that sort of thing. So I would imagine that outreach people and professionals in mental health are probably kind of kindred spirits in that regard.
For the most part, for sure. Absolutely. Mental health is a huge part of what we do. I mean, mental health is huge in our line of work. It's huge because everybody out there is suffering from some type of mental health. Mental health disorders are anything ranging from stress to, severe, some mild to severe. And, we're always seeking that question that you said, that ultimate why. Like you said that in the very beginning, like, they want to know why. And I think we want to know why too, but I think for us now, it's become more about focusing on saving lives and saving somebody than asking why anymore.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get somebody to go to meetings or to go into treatment so they can get their, 1 year coin or whatever it is. And they'll hate me if I don't know what it is, but for us, it's not about that. It's about saving lives. It's about making sure that people are waking up each and every day. About harm reduction, because there's, cannabis is a harm reduction, and that's become medicinal nowadays.
Pennsylvania making some strides in that. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
We still had an LCB. We still do have an LCB. Who has an LCB? Nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have thought we would have been like maybe almost dead last, like maybe one of the last 15 states. And I remember like, what was it? I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, when they extended the medicinal in the state of Pennsylvania, they extended medicinal, what do you call it? Conditions to anxiety. And I knew that as soon as they said anxiety, you're opening up the floodgates because, and I do, to be fair, I do think that you actually have to have an anxiety disorder. I don't necessarily think you can just be like, sometimes I feel anxious. Like, I think that they are high. Right. Like, I think that they're, that there's some sort of expectation, but nonetheless, I mean, once you get into that area, it's almost as if the government is like, we're still kind of holding on to the legacy thing, but it's like I get it. It's like when you talk to your parents about some, newer progressive concept or something, and maybe they don't really want to argue with you because they get it, but it's like there's this old school thing where they're like, I can't give it up, but here, just take all this anyway. And it feels like one of those things.
Absolutely. For sure. It's funny too, because I think, it's funny when you say the parent analogy, because they want to get it, they want to comprehend, but they're still stuck in their value system and their beliefs that there's no way in hell you're going to sway them. You know what I mean? But there's a fighting chance for people that aren't our parents and that aren't our peers, that, people coming up, for children, for youth, for, it's just, getting through to people.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, I've been preaching that since I was in high school, although for very, very different reasons. In high school, in high school, it was like, I remember when Ralph Nader was a candidate, and of course it was like, let's all back Ralph Nader. But in reality, no one knew anything about Ralph Nader. We just knew he was the weed legalization guy, and weed, and that was, and that was it. But nowadays, after having smoked for a long period of time, for recreational purposes, I also see that there's a much deeper component to it, and that it is very helpful for people. And so it kind of no longer becomes like the Cheech and Chong movie, and now it actually becomes a serious conversation where it's and especially I think government people, once they see that it's not just a bunch of kids smoking weed, but it's you see the stories of someone who their seizures were improved because of that. Right. Or even just people that sort of maybe look like them, maybe, someone is hey, I'm a lawyer and I've got my shit together and I'm this very sort of impressive person. And at night I like to get high. It's not a big deal. And then I wake up and I go to my job again, and who gives a shit? And so I think the more stories that you have like that, the more it's just kind of oh, okay, maybe we were wrong about this. All right. Let people.
And I'm a firm believer that cannabis is a phenomenal medicinal for people, because it's what, when people usually go into a detox program, and treatment and stuff like that, when they're getting off opiates, it's usually the worst feeling in the world that people want to, that's why people don't want to do it. That's why people don't want to get off of them, because they're afraid of the physical withdrawals and stuff. I did a lot of research. Excuse me. I did a lot of research, and I actually detoxed with cannabis. And I used it as a medicinal. You personally? Me personally. As a matter of fact, yeah, there's a story out there on Leafly about me. If you Google my name, Britt Carpenter Leafly, or do Britt Carpenter radio personality Philly, and you'll see a huge, the Scripps Network did a huge piece on me when Illinois was trying to push the legalization of cannabis for opioid withdrawals and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they used me and they interviewed me. So it's cool. I'm a huge voice for it. I love it. It's not like I come out and talk about it, but when people start talking about it, I'll let them know, that it's okay. It's what, there's different medicines out there that people have to take, whether it's a benzo because you get anxiety, you need a Xanax, mm-hmm. What's the difference in that? Or if you needed, have some cannabis to take that anxiety away from you a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan.
So how long ago was it that you, if you don't mind me asking, how long ago was it that you just officially decided I'm finished, and you had to experience all that, and then decided hey, I'm gonna use cannabis in order to get over this hump?
As of right now that we've been talking, I am at my 4.5 year mark.
Wow.
Today is 4.5 years. An hour ago, right when we started, or right before we started, it hit 4.5 years. So that's
no kidding, man.
That. Yeah.
Congratulations.
4.5 years. And I'm not a huge oh, that's the days. I just know the 28th. I know. And I was looking at it before I got on the call with you, that app. And it was like, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's going to go to 4.5. So 4.5 years today.
That's crazy. How does it feel? I mean, does it feel like it's been 4.5 years?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like it's been longer. Sometimes I feel like it's been shorter. Sometimes I forget it even happened.
Yeah.
You know? But no, it's gone by really quick. It's gone by very quick. And I'm fortunate for everything that's happened in these 4.5 years. It's been one hell of a crazy ride. And,
I bet.
You know, I'm thrilled. I couldn't be more happy with where I'm at. You know?
So do you ever like, do you think in your like mind's eye that you're 100% through, there's no sort of threat, or is there a kind of always a looming threat and you kind of always have to be careful?
You know, for a while, yeah, I always had to be careful, and I still have to be. I mean, but I'm around the deal, and I got to be honest with you, like I know where I was. I know what I was like. I know what I look like. I know what I went through and what I put people through. And I don't ever want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plus nowadays, 4.5 years later, like the stuff that is out on the streets isn't what was back then. I overdosed. I've overdosed where I had to be brought back. But today it's not even heroin. It's
Like,
fentanyl.
what do you mean, like fentanyl? Yeah.
It's fentanyl. It's like pure fentanyl. And people are dying because of it. So, you know, like, do I want to go through that again? Hell no. Plus, I got to be honest with you, I don't ever want to have to feel like that again. I don't ever want to feel what it's like to come down
Mm-hmm.
or to detox. That is just the worst feeling in the world. And if I could keep reminding myself that every night and play it over in my head, like rewinding that, that scene in my head each time, I'll do it because it's keeping me going.
Right.
You know, plus my mission work, doing what I'm doing and helping others. And I see a greater purpose finally. I feel like I'm in a space where I belong.
Right.
You know, I've grown some roots for a while, and, I have a really good group of friends, and I started, Philly Unknown on social media and got a bunch of photographers together that had some social awkwardness like the rest of us. And,
Right.
because anybody in photography, is going through something. It's one of the reasons they pick up a camera. Usually it's a way of them healing.
Right.
That's the
Or
power.
they're just really introverted people a lot of the time too.
Very socially awkward. No, I'm joking. Introverted. A lot of introverted. Now, I say that because it's what it is. And, so Philly Unknown, like I started that for all of us introverted, all of us who are socially awkward, all of us who have that type of, wanting to belong somewhere attitude, or, didn't really have that sense of belonging most of our lives. But the only thing that brought us together was photography.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care what you do for a living. We don't care, where you came from. We care the fact that you're a person who enjoys something that I enjoy. So there's a connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what Philly Unknown was sort of built upon. And I made some really great friends off of it. I've made a lot of great connections here in the city. It's just been a really great ride. So I can never say, no, I'll never go back. But I can tell you that I'll do everything in my power every damn day to make sure it never happens to me.
Yeah. I can imagine. Plus, I would figure that it's probably good for you too, in terms of like just another barrier to kind of getting back into that mentality, to have all these people that I would imagine you probably feel a sense of responsibility for now to some degree, like all these other people that you help and do outreach for. It's almost like, who would I be if I ended up, going back? Like, it's not just you that sort of would have to deal with the repercussions of that. It's probably a lot of other people too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you got to be able to walk the talk. It's one thing to talk, but actions speak so much louder than words. And, I also know that if I were to ever use again, everything that I worked for all these years, these 4.5 years, Philly Unknown being built, the nonprofit, the connections I made, were all just destroyed. In my mind, I might as well just pack up and move to a different city and start over again.
Yeah.
Because I failed not just myself, but everybody else. even though that's not the way it would really play out, but in my head, that's me. I'm that extremist. So if that keeps me on the straight and narrow, that keeps me from ever picking up again, right on, you know? So plus my mother's Italian, and if, you know, Italian guilt from a mother, you know, you just remember that all the time. So
Right.
I think of that.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, it's your mom is always that person that maybe can influence you in that regard, I guess. Right. Keep
Yeah,
you
I
from doing
guess.
something bad.
Oh, her. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I tell her as little as possible.
Yeah. So earlier I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about how like, and should be probably pretty obvious, I would think, to most people that, you know, when you're among the community that you're working with, like, first of all, they probably aren't, like you said, they're just not really that aware of like all the social distancing measures that we're supposed to be taking. Number one, and number two, they probably can't even do so, even if they wanted to. Like, I'm just curious more about like kind of their feeling of this. I mean, do a lot of them sort of like, I heard, but just whatever? Like, I would have to assume it's like, it's almost in a weird way. I know it's not like a first world problem kind of thing, but it, you know, maybe if you're homeless, it is, because, you know, in that regard, it's like, dude, there are so many points from where I am to having anxiety about this, like, that I still have to get to, that it's like, it's just not even on my radar. I would think.
I think, you know, for them, because, you know, they don't have the news in their face 24/7, and they don't have access to that. And there aren't people, to them, it's just, you know, business as usual each day, you know, and it's a shame, because you would think that they would want to do what they need to do in order to take care of themselves and be well. But once again, when they're out in the streets, it's survival each day, no matter what. So they're just figuring, you know, hey, I made it. I woke up today. That's you know, that's good by me. Let's see where this day takes me. I think people have to realize that it's, you know, that phrase, where the day takes you, you know, it's supposed to be something that's very frivolous for us as, you know, what do you want to do today? I don't know. Let's see where the day takes us. You know, for them, like that's their survival each day, you know?
Yeah.
So they don't know what's happening. Do they care? I don't know. I don't know if it's that they're, you know, apathetic towards it all, you know, that they're, you know, that sometimes, you know, because of, you know, the position that they're in, it doesn't really concern them more than somebody who is not. I don't know. You know, everybody's different, but I will tell you that they know, they're aware, they're respectful about it. They understand when you tell them, or you remind them. And that's all you have to do, is remind somebody who isn't in their face every day that,
Yeah.
hey, this is what's going on. And, you know, like I had somebody the other day came over and hung on the van mirror and put their head in the window. I'm like, hey, I'm right here.
Right.
But I got to be very honest with you. Even if the pandemic wasn't going on, I would have told them the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be boundaries. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personal space is personal space, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, do those who are on the streets know? They know, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? They're going to go self-isolate somewhere? Nowhere to isolate.
Yeah, it's too bad that this is going to eventually be one of those things where, you know, you're going to get certain parts of the community are just, you know, they're going to be more threatened by it than others, in the same way that, like, you know, the elderly, and, you know, it just sucks that there's certain groups where it's like, what the hell can you really do? You know, is that something that you have like picked up on at all, in terms of like, you know, have you maybe changed some of the outreach to be at all like Corona like related, or are you pretty much still at just mission one?
Oh no. Like the one night we did, we helped, we worked with, one of our colleagues from another organization, and we packed bags of masks and rubber gloves and hygiene supplies. We actually go out, we painted signs of positivity and what we call positive signs at times, and we hung them along like the fence areas of our lots that are ours. to sort of just, bring a little bit of, something special to them. But no, we tried to stay focused to what's happening out there, giving everything. But it's interesting because our outreaches and what we give them as far as resources on the streets on a daily basis, we call them compassion bags, are all corona related to begin with without the corona being around. So, it always includes wet wipes or hand wipes, hand sanitizers, always includes, clean clothes, always includes, hygiene products. So, we're just trying to continue to get those resources out. Like the other night, we gave out 80 bags in one night within an hour and a half time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you covered the whole city, or is it just certain sections?
We go through the whole city. I mean, our office, which we call the Roost Street Hub, is in Kensington. So we work in Kensington a lot because of that. And that's, of course, where that's an epicenter for the opioid epidemic right now. Right. But like the other day, I took the van right through Center City because they were just, the other night when it was pouring rain, they were laying on the street. People were just laying on the street sleeping, under bags on the cardboard. And, so you've got to be conscientious of that it's all over. It's not just one area. It's South Philly. It's, North Philly. It's Center City. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So I guess having been doing this for as many years now that you have, do you get a lot of people that like were once kind of like, at rock bottom per se, and now like they've just like totally improved their lives and they're on the upswing? Like, do you get a lot of those kind of things? Yeah. Like somebody that's just, dude, I'm working full time and blah, blah, blah. And I got this going and I'm totally in the clear now.
Oh yeah. Several over the years. I've seen several of them, I've seen, oh my gosh, I can't even begin. Like there's Chaz. Chaz has been, for the last 3 years, he and I have worked and connected, and finally he is off the streets and he's living in a different state, and he reconnected with his family there, and he's working, and he's, doing so well as can be. There's Tiffany, who watched her go from the streets to a job, and she's loving life. And there's a few different people like that, There's several people. I did a docuseries for Voice of America 2 years ago, and there were several people in the docuseries that I still keep in contact with that are, doing the best they can, working their programs. And so, yeah, I see that. I see the transition, and I see the positive work happening, and it's nice. It's cool.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I would imagine I would assume that's the best part of what you're doing, but maybe not. Do you have like a favorite thing?
No, it's, and it's funny too, because like at the end of the day, when I come home, like I'm home, I sort of just leave it all there. I don't bring work home with me. I don't bring my outreach home with me. One of my favorite things is watching people's faces light up when you do the littlest thing for them. And that makes it all worthwhile. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else. And they say thank you, and their faces light up because that you just made their day for the first time, probably in forever. That's enough for me sometimes.
Yeah. And I would imagine it's probably like some of the only things that they get that make them feel that way for a lot. It's not like the rest of us where we get, lots of little niceties, if that's the right word, niceties, I think. We get them every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine it's a little thing, even if it's every few weeks or something, it's probably, you may be the only person that provides them with something like that.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, you and your family order pizza one night, and you sit home, you have pizza, and they're thrilled to get a bag of peanuts or,
right.
A peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a water and a clean shirt and a pair of socks. And, and I mean, I say pizza because I love my pizza, and I sit home and eat pizza, and I think about that, I think about stuff like that all the time. And, they're very thankful. Those that have very little are probably the most appreciative.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's so true, man. I have noticed this for years, that it seems oddly that people that have the least are like in the best mood or something like that, despite, lacking in some cases almost everything. I've been fortunate enough to go to Africa a few times. when I was a kid, I went a few times, and it was just like, you know how when you're a kid, you just experience certain things where it's like, you know, everything is more dramatic when you're a kid. Everything is just enormous. And then you grow up and like, it's kind of still enormous if you experience that thing when you were a kid. Right. So for whatever, you know, reason, however that works, like I've always just been a big time, like Africa guy. I don't know what it is. It's like, I love just how appreciative the people are about everything, and just how, I don't know, they just have such a positive like spirit. And I suppose it probably has a lot to do with just what's happened in Africa over thousands of years. And you just sort of, you know, you have this like mentality that results from things like that, and it can last for, you know, generations or something. But and among other reasons, I love to go there as well. But one thing about the people that I always have noticed is like, you know, you see situations over there where you're just, the knee-jerk reaction is to just go, Jesus, you know, like, oh man, that's so brutal. And then you realize like, it's not brutal at all. This is just how they do things. And it's not like a big deal. Like maybe they would prefer, if given the opportunity to have like a better place to live or something, like, yeah, I'm sure they probably would take that, but you don't find them. And obviously I'm not talking about everybody, you know, I'm talking about a lot of people that live in like rural areas of Africa. And so I don't know, maybe city people are very different, but, you know, a lot of the people that I've met are like, they are happier with so much less than me having so much more. And, for sure. And most people I would assume like, they're just happy people. It's very interesting. In fact, I don't know if you watch a lot of Netflix these days.
Ozark, that's it. But I haven't seen season 3, so don't talk to me about it.
Wait, which one?
I haven't seen Ozark season 3 yet, so don't talk to me about it.
I'm not even on season 1, but I've been heckled. I need to watch it, but I haven't. What about Tiger King? You had to watch Tiger King, obviously, right?
I have not. However, you saw it?
Yes.
You saw Tiger King?
Yeah.
You saw episode 2, where there was a video of this woman singing about tigers with red hair, and singing about the love of tigers.
one of the music videos. Yeah.
Yeah. She worked for me in Tampa in 1999.
No shit.
She was batshit crazy then, and she's batshit crazy apparently now.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, every time somebody tells me that, I'm like, you saw episode 2? Remember that redheaded chick that with the singing?
Dude, that's funny. I'm gonna I'll pop that up on the screen or something if I can find it.
And I still believe in living beautiful, wild and free.
It's there. It's out there because somebody sent it to me, and I'm like, what? I'm like, you lost it. I'm like, I never saw this show. They're like, look who that is. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's really funny. I mean, of course, you know, if she was crazy then, she's gonna obviously sing a music video about, you know, tiger romance or whatever.
Her name was Teresa. She asked me called Therese. She went by Sister T. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit there, you know.
I go by Sister T sometimes too, to be fair. So you know.
I don't want to hear about those days.
The reason I asked you about Netflix and getting off this whole like, wow, what a wild tangent.
Sorry about that.
That's my fault. But there was this documentary. I believe it was on Netflix. It was called Happy People, and I think it came out, I don't know, maybe 5 or so years ago. It's one of those, what's the guy's name? The German filmmaker who like always narrates himself with his own voice. Oh God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. This is going to kill me. Anyway, he's like a documentarian guy. And he always, like, very well known, very famous documentary filmmaker. And he always, you know, puts his own voice over everything, which kind of makes it a little bit humorous because he has like such a thick, German accent, and it's, I don't know, it's just always kind of funny. But
Werner
anyway,
Herzog?
Yes, Werner Herzog, that's the guy. So he made a movie called Happy or Happy People, one of the two, and it was all about these people that basically live in Siberia and they have nothing. And so he did a bunch of studying as to these people versus all sorts of other people around the world. And what he found was that the people of the Taiga, I think that was the region of Siberia or something that they lived. Someone fact check this. I'm probably like totally, but
what the hell are you talking about, Adam?
Yeah, I'm making this up. But apparently, like, these people were the happiest. They were the happiest of everyone because they had like just enough. It was like, because, at a certain point, it's like you're not going to be happy if you're like, physically threatened, I suppose, like all the time. But
right,
there's a certain benchmark that you need to get to. But at the same time, it's like not having complete and utter safety is potentially a good thing. Like you should need to do certain things to survive, because once you hit that, like, it's sort of like the elation that you'll feel and the amount of like purpose and fulfillment that you'll feel as a result of sort of like climbing that mountain every day, is like this amazing cathartic kind of experience. And so essentially what he said was these people of the Tioga are basically the happiest people in the world because of the fact that they essentially live in the wilderness. They have to do certain things to survive, but it is a like, it's a fruitful place to live. Like, there are things to eat. You can fish, like you can do all these things, and so it's there for you, but you have to go out and get it. And all the other bullshit that all the Netflix and all the whatever, I didn't get the promotion, like all the trivial shit that everyone worries about, it doesn't really apply to them. And so all that stuff is essentially nonsense in terms of your emotional well-being.
I love it. I'm gonna have to check this out. I have it bookmarked now. I already Googled and bookmarked it, so that way I can go back and check it out. It sounds interesting. I
is
like
it Happy
stuff
People?
like that.
Is that what it
Happy
is?
People. Yep.
Okay.
Happy People, Siberia. The name. Let's see. Happy People. A year in Taiga.
Taiga. Okay.
A year in Taiga. So, and I'd be totally about watching something like that, because as you were saying it, and I was thinking about it, it reminds me of when I was in Bali, and I was in one of the smaller villages that most people wouldn't go to unless like your guide is from that village and takes you there. How like they live in the middle of this village and there's nothing. I mean, nothing. And they're the happiest people around because they don't have anything. They don't know it. I mean, like I hired a driver in Bali for $60 a day. And he drove me, and I didn't have to pay for his gas or anything like that, just $60.
Right.
And a meal, and it's just interesting, so it's funny you say that. So I have to check that out, because I'm all about like those isolated societies who are very much like in tune with day-to-day living. So that's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for sharing the thing about Bali. I think I remember you posting stuff about that a while ago. What was that just was for vacation, or?
It was for my birthday. It was
nice. It's a nice birthday.
I always wanted to go to Bali. It was one of those places that I thought I would never get to. It was so far away, and like all that. And when you have your milestone birthdays that come up, I was like, I'm going to Bali. And I said that like in like the year before my birthday. And when my birthday came around, I was in Bali, and it was 14 days of amazingness.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never been there before. I've been to a couple places in Southeast Asia, but not Bali, but everyone that I've known that has ever gone there is like, oh dude, it's like the definition of Zen,
Nothing, you know what? Got up when I wanted to get up, went to sleep when I wanted to go to sleep. I had zero time schedule. I'm not a tourist. Like I don't like go on I don't call it vacation, because I don't go, I just travel. Like I just go, and the one day I just laid in the pool all day and slept and hung out and ate and hung out with like this Australian couple that I met, and the one day I just walked like 15 miles, like through these villages and watched people who were, one village was like a woodworking village. The other village was a village that actually made, that village was like an agriculture village. The villages are almost like craft villages. And like where you live is what you do.
Right.
So it was really cool to see that. And, it was a different way of life. It was awesome. Very easy, very slow, very,
By the way, why is it that every vacation that is like that, there's always like an Australian couple that you meet? It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like every single like place, like when we went to Southeast Asia a few years ago, it was like, we like went to Vietnam and blah, blah, blah. And we're doing this and hey, let's go get a beer, whatever. They're like, oh, look at those two very attractive, like Australian people that are obviously
and they're always
a couple.
good looking.
Right. They're always really attractive and they just want to like, slam beers with you or something. And they're just super like, just really nice people. And it's like every story of everyone ever that has gone to Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, whatever, like one of those kind of, I don't know, more like what hedonistic sort of beachy kind of destination type places. Always an Australian couple, always super, super friendly and always really good looking.
And it's funny you say that because this was so funny you say it because the Australian couple that I met, they were in their 70s. They reminded me of my parents, but they were like these like young, they danced, they were singing, like just crazy. And they were a good looking couple. And they just, I connected with them. I still keep in touch with them on social media. The funny thing is Australia is so close to Bali that they go over there like it's nothing.
Right.
Like
it's like the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And, but it's, however, if you ever go to Bali, you go to Canggu, it's all Australian surfers. So you might want to stay away from the beach at sunset.
Yeah.
It's a little rowdy. So yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool, man. Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go to Bali sometime. When did you go?
2 years ago, November. Wait.
And what was the milestone birthday?
It was a big one. 50.
50. Yeah. That's a great birthday for 50.
I'm an old man.
Yeah. You don't look 50, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. Must have been all those years of hard living. I don't know. People are always like, wow, you look young. You look good. What was it? I'm like, I have no idea because I beat the hell out of my body all these years. I'm very fortunate. My mother is going to be 78 this year, and she does not look it. She goes to the gym 3 days a week. She works, very young looking. So I'm fortunate, Yeah. I'm fortunate for that, because I've seen people who are in their 20s and they look like they're in their 40s. So
right. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was my 50th and it was great. And it was cool because my dad was diagnosed 2 months before with stage 4 cancer. And every morning, since it was 12 hours ahead there, like every morning I would wake up to a text from him from the night before, and then we would communicate like on the different times. And I was posting on Instagram for him everywhere I went so he could experience it. And then he passed in January after that. So it was so awesome because it was like my dad was on vacation with me, but he wasn't, and I think in a way I was doing a lot of it for him as well too, because he thought it was just amazing. Like I even talked to him on the phone while I was over there, and he was thrilled. So it was a good pilgrimage for me.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have anything you're looking forward to in the future? Any other off the beaten path, kind of things that maybe you'd like to do?
Things pop up in my head. Like, my brain doesn't shut down too often, so things pop up in my head.
I know the feeling, man.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the worst, dude. That's where that cannabis comes in handy sometimes.
I am maybe like top 5 ADHD people living on Earth right now. I might say it's bad.
Hence the tangents we can go off on.
Yeah.
But for me, no, I don't have anything. I want to go back to Bali actually this November. I want to go back. It's been in the talks, but we'll see how this goes with the pandemic. But
yeah, no shit. Yeah, you may have to cancel that. That sucks.
It does. But, other than that, ironically enough, like I sort of just like take life as it comes to me. Like I'll be like, oh, I have some time. I'm gonna go. Like actually 4 years ago, at this point in time, I had just done like a 12-day hop from like I was Florida to Denver to LA. So, and I just traveled,
That's cool.
And so I like to do that when I get the time and I have the money, and I like to do that, but nothing major. Sort of just, working on this initiative of the garden and trying to get things in order. And
yeah. Hey, by the way, does the whole like PPP loan and all that stuff, like, Is there any kind of relief for like a nonprofit? I haven't heard anything about that. Like, is there?
There's grants and stuff, but it's all this applying, and then there's so much paperwork,
Right.
and I hate paperwork,
Right.
But there's loans, there's grants for that. There's not, because they're like, they're basically forgiveness. You have to pay it back. So the city has some, federal has some. I'm just listen. If the end of May rolls around and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, then I'm going to have to really peel layers back and figure it out. But I feel okay for another few weeks. And the nonprofit, the best thing about that is that it's always bringing money in. People are always willing to give because they love our mission. They love what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the next little while plays out. I as much as I said, I hadn't been watching the news. My break from the news was great when we were in Maine, because it was like literally all I was doing was cranking out these podcasts, which I just love to do, especially with nothing going on. And then like at sunrise, sunset, Milky Way, outside, it was like it was awesome. So I got away from the news for like a while. It was like, maybe at night for like 5 minutes, I would just like, we're alive, right? Like, you know what I mean? It was like, that was doing the minimal possible check. It was like, the human race is still, okay. But then when we got back, foolishly or not, I turned the TV on and I started watching some stuff. And it was like, I was kind of feeling good about it, and now I'm kind of like bumming a little bit again, because I heard some stuff recently where I'm just like, oh God, like I've been hearing that like winter is now like potentially going to be bad. Like there's all sorts of theories about how this other strain in like the fall or the winter is going to be bad, and so there's that. And then I've been hearing stuff about like, is it possible, in fact, like I guess what was it? The WHO said something about if you have had the virus, there's literally no evidence that suggests that you won't get the virus again, which everyone was kind of hanging their hat on. Like even the people that were like, this is a huge overreaction, like let's go back to work. It was like, well, it's possible that those people are right. I don't want to take the chance, but they might be right. The problem is, if you can get it again, then there's no more thing to hang your head. Like that's out the window. So I don't know, man. It's like, I'm kind of bumming out on this the last couple of days, and I try to keep a smile on my face, but I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like it's just
same way, man. I feel you. I'm the same way. And like, I'm out there every day and I'm seeing people not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it scares the shit out of me, because like I'm doing everything I can. I'm making sure that I'm wearing my mask. I'm making sure I'm crossing the street. I'm making sure I'm not, within 6 feet of somebody's space, if possible, but like, it's the other people sometimes. And, people keep saying, well, we're in this together. We are, but if we're not all doing what we need to do, then this shit show is going to go on for quite some time.
Yeah. And it has. I mean, you look at all the countries list on the, what is it, Worldometers or whatever that website is, and the U.S. is right up there. And
number 5.
Wait. 5 in number 1 in cases anyway.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, not U.S. Pennsylvania's number 5.
Oh, Pennsylvania's number 5, right?
In the country. I'm sorry. I'm like, wait, number 1 in cases. It's just, once again, it's that uncertainty. Everybody thinks that because they social distanced and self-isolated for a month, it's okay.
Right?
No, it's not.
I know.
It's
well,
not.
Like you said before, it was like, what was the thing you said? It was kind of like, oh, we're having a nice little snowstorm or something. And the funny thing is that it did feel that way, to myself included. Like it was like, oh, this will be like a fun little, it was like, it was naive, but you couldn't help but like, oh yeah, we'll just go get some firewood and, like we'll order a pizza and we'll tell ghost stories. And it's like, you realize like, dude, this isn't like a 4-day, hey, let's just screw around for a few days. It's like this. And I think maybe that's a lot of, like, obviously a lot of the hysteria is I need to work or else I'm screwed. Like I totally sympathize with people that like, maybe live in the middle of the country and are like, no one in my state has it. Like I have to make a living. Like, I get that. But I do wonder if maybe part of the cabin fever is just that realization of like, this was kind of like this fun thing for a little while, but now it's like, holy shit, like I don't want my life to just be this now. And it's almost like, yeah, dude, like this is life right now. And I don't know, it could be this way for 3 months. It could be this way for 6 more months. Like it could be this way for years. Like I don't know. And that, the lack of clarity, I think, is really what drives you. Like if somebody, if it was just like, listen, and by the way, I know this is not possible. I know that this is the needle is moving all the time, but like, it would have been so much easier if somebody had just said, all right, guys, listen up. This is really going to suck for like 5 months. You can't leave your house. I know I'm crazy. I like you're going to think it's the craziest thing in the world, but 5 months, that's what we need. Do not leave your house. These are the rules. And in 5 months and 1 day, everything is back to normal. Go. I almost feel like as crazy as 5 months would have been, you would have gone, all right, well, 5 months. But the fact that, not even 2 months into it, people are going nuts, I think is much correlated due to the fact that there isn't any kind of like, it's a phased approach as it pertains to the states. But no one really knows what the hell, like even the medical community, other than like, hey, social distancing, we should do, like, there's no real, like, no one knows. And it's really hard to deal with.
Uncertain times, man. People just keep making up stuff in their head, like, because they don't know what the answer is. They're making the answers up. Oh, no, it's going to be this. Oh, it's going to be that. I'm taking it day by day. It's all we can do. Until I wake up tomorrow and they say, hey, you know what? We think we got this under control. We're opening things up. I'm just going to assume that this is our new norm for quite some time.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a date to put on it. Don't tell me May 1st or June 1st or whatever.
Right.
Just let's get it under control. Let's do what we can. And hopefully, we all come out of this, stronger than before.
Right. Well, for sure. I think we will. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I don't want to say everyone's going to be better because of it, because a lot of people are going to go out of business. But I think that I think that mentally there's no way to go through something like this without having like a stronger perspective once you get through it. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Totally. Yeah. I just hope that it's sooner than later.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks so much for chatting with me, man. I really
glad.
Super appreciate it, dude. I'm glad that I got you down here because I feel that I have not been as Philly oriented on these things as I would like to be. So I would like to get more, Philly people on, and so I really appreciate it.
Who did I say? Yeah, I saw you. Who did I see had on? I was like, oh, that bum.
Oh, JJ.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. How'd you know right away? That's bum JJ.
Yeah. We've been keeping in touch, man. I had a great time with him on that, and I got a lot of photographers were pretty happy about that one. We just basically riffed on Instagram cliches like the whole time. So it was funny.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're doing this. This is really cool. I'm very appreciative that you included me in it. Sorry it was so long to connect. I mean, between both of our schedules, it's like, okay, 3 weeks later, here we are. So I'm glad. This was awesome. This was a good break in some of the stuff that we're dealing with daily. So it's necessity.
Dude.
It's a necessity.
Yeah. Sometimes you just talk. Sometimes you just have to talk, helps out.
I'll have to get you on my podcast. And then,
oh, dude. Yeah.
That's all I do on it is we just talk.
Is that, I don't have to be, someone who necessarily like works in your field or something like that? Cause I don't want to show up and be a total fraud.
Oh no, my podcast is currently called Be a Voice, but I'm renaming it to Everyday People. And it's just really, I have people on there from politicians to media to everyday people.
Cool.
Everybody has a story to tell and everybody should be able to have a platform to do it. So
cool. I'm 100% in. Just let me know.
Awesome. We'll make that work real soon, hopefully.
All right, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Take it easy, Britt. I'll talk to you soon.
Well, take care.